can be anyone and join Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class. It doesn't matter what your body type is, but there are going to be advantageous builds. I always use the example of building a video game character. So if you have a video game character and let's say you can spec 1 point into magic, 1 point into strength, 1 point into stealth, 1 point into speed, and then you got 5 extra points. What do you want to do with them? Well, if you put all of those 5 points into strength, then if you want to learn a magic type move, it's going to be kind of hard. And that's not to say you can't learn it. Likewise, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there's an endomorph, an ectomorph, and a mesomorph. So someone who's kind of skinny, someone who's kind of, stocky, someone who's kind of in the middle. But your different body type is going to dictate the types of moves that you like to do. If you have, let's say, a larger body type, the types of moves that you're going to favor are going to be things like smash passes, being on top. You're kind of going to want to take people down. You're not going to favor moves like a cartwheel pass that's much more athletic where you're moving around faster. But that's not to say you can't do it. I've known big guys who have spent the time to really, really invest in doing those fast and athletic moves. And likewise, I've met really small people, even females who are like much smaller than me, who have really, really effective jiu-jitsu. Now their game plan is different. They can't go at it and be like, okay, I'm going to do the exact same thing this 250-pound guy does and win at jiu-jitsu. They can do different things. They can like sneak around to the back. They can be a little bit more athletic. So it definitely affects it. And you're going to have your own struggles. And honestly, some builds are going to be more difficult than others. Like if you're really out of shape and you're like that's going to be harder, but you can still do it. You can always make up for that deficit with additional training. Just like if you like stacked in a video game a bunch of different points into the magic thing and you're like a magic specialist, but you wanted to learn the two-handed sword button, you just have to spend a little bit more time leveling up that skill. So the body type, it matters, but it's more like what you're going to tend to move towards rather than like an absolute thing that dictates your success or failure. So if you're like a smaller person, if you're a more petite person, the things that you're going to favor, the golden rule of thumb is going to be attack the neck and attack the legs. And the reason why those are the specific areas of the body you want to attack, because they're a little bit harder to defend. And the attacks much more involve trickery and deception and getting to an advantageous position rather than overwhelming someone with strength. If you were to attack the arm, for example, on someone who's really strong, you bend their arm this way, but they've got all the strength in the world pulling it back in and you're trying to twist in there, bringing it back. Now, versus a choke, sure, they can have their hands up and defend, but if you're smart and you're sneaky, you can get around their back and you can move their arm in a way to where they can't reach up. So now the only thing they have to defend is their chin. It doesn't matter if you're really small and a really petite girl. The straight jacket system by John Danaher is a very popular strategy for getting behind someone's back and tying up their arms. But if you're behind someone's back and you tie up their arms, it doesn't matter if they're bigger than you. If they only have their chin to defend, you are going to be able to reach your hand underneath, sneak it up, and squeeze for the choke, and they'll fall asleep, no matter how big and no matter how strong they are. So that's probably the number one move you're going to want to go for if you're a smaller or petite person, is to get the back and attack chokes around the neck. The legs are also a very vulnerable position, and you wouldn't think about it with how upper body focused almost everybody is, especially when you're newer and inexperienced in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Attacking the arms and things like that, people are very aware of it. If you don't know much about Jiu-Jitsu, you think legs are really big and really strong tree trunk type things. But when you're doing things like twisting the leg for a heel hook or a straight ankle lock, people aren't as aware of it, so they're less likely to have natural defenses. That's not to say that people can't defend it well, but when you do moves like heel hooks, and if you can get to a good position, they're not going to have their athletic base underneath them because you're controlling the one or both of their legs. And then if they can't stand up and generate power, it's taken away. And on top of that, applying a leg lock submission, the mechanics of that, very, very hard to defend, especially an inside type leg lock position. Now, it's a lot more complicated, and it will take a lot more time learning and training to get an effective leg lock versus getting an effective choke around the neck. But overall, if you're just great at jiu-jitsu, those are the two types of moves you're going to want to do if you're smaller. and you'll have a lot of success against people who are bigger.